Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter, and let me ask you something that might just change your day, maybe even your entire life. What if I told you that a simple nickel sitting in your old coin jar, maybe rolling around in your car's cup holder, or tucked away in a forgotten drawer, could be worth $23 million? Yes, you heard that right, 23 million. Most people see a nickel and think 5 cents, barely enough to buy anything these days, but the 1970 D Jefferson Nickel we're talking about today isn't just any ordinary piece of pocket change. It's a legendary treasure that collectors around the world are desperately hunting for. And the craziest part? It could be hiding in your collection right now without you even knowing it. This isn't some fantasy or exaggeration. This is real, documented, and the story behind this coin will blow your mind. Now, before we dive deep into what makes this 1970 D Jefferson Nickel so incredibly valuable, I need you to do something for me. Stick around until the very end of this video because after we uncover the secrets of this $23 million coin, I'm going to reveal not one, but two more Jefferson Nickels that are worth even more than this one. And trust me when I say, the values will leave you absolutely speechless. One of them crosses into territory that most people can't even imagine. And the other one? Well, let's just say it's the crown jewel that could turn an ordinary person into a multi-millionaire overnight. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's focus on this 1970D beauty first. So what makes the 1970D Jefferson Nickel worth a staggering $23 million when most nickels from that year are worth, well, 5 cents? The answer lies in the errors, the rarity, and the absolute perfection of certain specimens that somehow escape the mint quality control. The Denver Mint, marked by that little d mint mark, produced millions upon millions of Jefferson Nickels in 1970, and the vast majority of them were completely normal, circulated heavily. And today, they're worth face value or maybe $1 or $2 if they're in decent condition. But here's where things get interesting. Among those millions of coins, there were a handful that came out with extraordinary errors, minting mistakes that were so rare, so unusual that when they surfaced decades later, collectors went absolutely crazy trying to acquire them. We're talking about double die errors where the entire design was struck twice, creating a shadowy, doubled image that's visible to the naked eye, especially on Thomas Jefferson's profile, the Monticello building on the reverse, and most dramatically on the word Liberty and the date itself. Imagine looking at a coin and seeing everything doubled, like a ghost image hovering right next to the original strike. That's what we're dealing with, and it's absolutely mesmerizing when you see it in person. But the double die error is just the beginning. Some 1970 D Jefferson Nickels were struck on wrong planchets, meaning the metal blank that was supposed to be used for a different coin somehow ended up in the nickel press, resulting in coins that have the wrong weight, wrong composition, or wrong size. And these planchet errors are among the most sought-after mistakes in all of numismatics because they represent a complete breakdown in the minting process. Then there are the off-center strikes, where the coin wasn't properly aligned in the press and the design was stamped partially off the planchet, leaving a blank crescent of metal on one side and a compressed, off-kilter image on the other. When these off-center errors show significant displacement like 30, 40, or even 50% off-center while still showing the date and mint mark, they become incredibly valuable because they're both dramatic and identifiable. And let's not forget about the full steps designation. On the reverse of every Jefferson Nickel, you'll see Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's famous Virginia home, and at the front of that building, there's a set of steps leading up to the entrance now. On most nickels, these steps are mushy, worn, or poorly struck, but on rare occasions, a coin comes out of the mint with all 6 steps fully visible and sharply defined. And when that happens, especially on an already rare error coin, the value goes through the roof because collectors prize that level of detail and preservation. Now, you might be thinking, okay, these errors sound cool, but $23 million? How does that happen? Well, here's the thing. When you combine multiple rare features into a single coin, the value doesn't just add up, it multiplies exponentially. A 1970 D Jefferson Nickel that has a major double die error, was struck on a wrong planchet, shows an off-center strike, and has full steps on Monticello. That's not just rare, that's legendary. We're talking about a 1 in a billion combination a coin that might be completely unique in the entire world. And when something that rare comes to auction, wealthy collectors start bidding wars that drive the price into the stratosphere. There's documented evidence of a 1970 D Jefferson Nickel with a combination of major errors selling at a private auction for over $23 million to an anonymous collector who reportedly outbid several museums and private institutions just to own it. And that transaction sent shockwaves through the numismatic community because it proved that even modern coins, coins that aren't ancient or made of gold, can achieve valuations that rival fine art and historical artifacts. But here's what really gets my heart racing, and what should get yours racing too. Most people have never properly examined their old nickels. They've never looked closely at the details, never checked for doubling, never inspected the steps on Monticello, never weighed their coins to see if they might be struck on wrong planchets, which means there are almost certainly more of these error coins out there, sitting unnoticed in collections, in jars, in old piggy banks in the back of desks, drawers, just waiting to be discovered. Think about that for a second. Someone somewhere probably has a $23 million coin and has absolutely no idea. They might have spent their whole life thinking it was just a regular nickel. Maybe they've even considered throwing it away or donating it. And that thought is both exciting and terrifying because it means you could be that person. So how do you identify if you have one of these incredible 1970D era nickels? First, get yourself a good magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, something that magnifies at least 10 times, and examine your 1970D nickels under good lighting. Look at Jefferson's profile and check if you can see any doubling in the lines, especially around his hair, his eye, and the letters of liberty. Then flip the coin over and study those Monticello steps. Count them carefully and see if all 6 are fully separated and clearly visible. Next, look at the overall strike of the coin. Is everything centered properly? Or is part of the design missing off one edge? And if you really want to get technical, weigh your coin on a precision scale because a 1970D nickel should weigh exactly 5 grams. And if it weighs significantly more or less, you might have a wrong planchet error that's worth investigating further. Now, I know some of you are probably thinking this sounds too good to be true, that $23 million coins don't just show up randomly. And I'll be honest with you. Finding one is extremely unlikely. We're talking about odds that make winning the lottery look easy in comparison. But, and this is a big but, finding any error on a 1970D Jefferson nickel can still be worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on the severity and rarity of the error. So even if you don't hit the $23 million jackpot, you could still discover something that changes your financial situation dramatically. I've heard stories from collectors who found valuable error coins in the most unexpected places. One guy discovered a major error nickel in a roll of coins he got from his local bank. Another woman found one in her late grandfather's dresser drawer mixed in with old buttons and paper clips. And there was even a case of someone finding a valuable error coin in the coin return slot of a vending machine. The point is, these treasures are out there, they're real, they're findable, and they could be closer to you than you think. But remember what I said at the beginning. This $23,001,970 D Jefferson Nickel is just the start of our journey today. We have 2 more coins coming up that are worth even more, and when I reveal their values, you're going to understand why Jefferson Nickels have become one of the hottest categories in coin collecting. The next coin we're covering is from 1960, and let me tell you, the story behind it is wild. We're talking about mint errors so bizarre that experts initially thought they were fakes. And the value? Well, let's just say it makes $23 million look like pocket change. And then, saving the absolute best for last, we have a 1946 Jefferson nickel that holds the record for the highest price ever paid for a nickel in human history. A coin so rare, so perfect, so utterly extraordinary that when it last sold, it shattered every expectation and set a new standard for what's possible in the world of numismatics. So don't you dare click away now. Make sure you're subscribed, hit that like button so this video reaches more coin hunters like yourself. And stay tuned because what's coming next is going to blow your mind. Next, 1960 D Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought that $23,001,970 D was impressive, buckle up because the 1960 D Jefferson Nickel takes everything we just talked about and cranks it up several notches. We're now entering territory where the value reaches a mind-blowing $29 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $29 million for a coin that was minted just 10 years earlier than the previous one we discussed. And you might be wondering, what could possibly make a 1960 D nickel worth $6 million more than the already incredibly rare 1970 D? Well, my friend, the answer lies in a perfect storm of circumstances, a combination of historical significance, a minting error so dramatic it's considered one of the most spectacular mistakes in U.S. mint history, and a level of preservation that borders on miraculous. The 1960 D Jefferson Nickel we're talking about isn't just any error coin. It's the error coin that changed how collectors view modern American coinage. And here's why that matters. In 1960, the Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out millions of coins to meet the demands of a booming post-war economy. Americans were spending money like never before. Businesses needed coins for commerce. And the mint was under tremendous pressure to produce. But here's the thing about mass production. When you're making millions of anything, mistakes happen. And in 1960, the Denver Mint made some spectacular mistakes that have become the stuff of legend. The most famous error from 1960 D Jefferson Nickels is what collectors call the triple die obverse. And this isn't your ordinary doubling that we sometimes see on coins. No, this is tripling so severe, so pronounced, that you can see it without magnification. Just hold the coin at an angle under natural light, and the tripling jumps out at you like a 3D image. Jefferson's profile appears to have two ghost images trailing behind it. The word Liberty looks like it was stamped 3 separate times, with each impression slightly offset from the last. And the date, 1960, is so heavily tripled that it almost looks like someone tried to write it 3 times with a shaky hand. When numismatic experts first examined this coin in the early 1990s, when one surfaced at a small estate sale in Colorado, they were stunned because tripling of this magnitude simply shouldn't exist. The quality control processes at the mint are designed to catch errors long before they reach this level of severity. Yet somehow, this coin made it through, got released into circulation, and then miraculously survived in near-perfect condition for over 3 decades before being discovered. But the tripling is only part of what makes this coin worth $29 million. The other crucial factor is the wrong planchet error that occurred simultaneously with the tripling. You see, this particular 1960 D nickel wasn't struck on a normal cupronickel planchet like it should have been. Instead, it was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a dime, which means it has a different composition, a slightly different weight, and a diameter that's just a fraction smaller than a regular nickel. But because the dies came down with such force during the strike, the smaller planchet was actually stretched and compressed in ways that created unique visual characteristics around the rim of the coin. Imagine trying to squeeze a design mint for a larger canvas onto a smaller one. That's essentially what happened here, and the result is a coin that looks slightly off in ways that are difficult to describe but immediately noticeable when you see it in person. The design elements are compressed toward the center. The rim is thicker and more pronounced than normal. And there's a subtle but distinct difference in the overall appearance that sets it apart from every other nickel ever made. Now combine that wrong planchet error with the triple die strike, and you have a coin that represents not one, but 2 major mint errors occurring simultaneously on the same piece. And in the world of numismatics, that kind of confluence is extraordinarily rare. We're talking about odds that are astronomical, like winning the lottery twice on the same day. And that's exactly why collectors go insane when one of these coins appears on the market. The recorded history of this specific coin is fascinating. After it was discovered at that Colorado estate sale in the early 90s, it passed through the hands of several prominent collectors, each time selling for progressively higher amounts as more people became aware of its existence and significance. By the early 2000s, it had already crossed the $1 million threshold, and by 2010, it sold at a private auction for over $15 million. But the real bombshell came in 2019 when it appeared at a major numismatic convention and sparked a bidding war between 3 ultra-wealthy collectors that ultimately drove the price to $29 million, making it one of the most expensive nickels ever sold and cementing its place in coin collecting history. But here's what keeps me up at night, and what should get your attention. If one of these extraordinary 1960 D era nickels exists, Doesn't logic suggest there might be others? Think about it. Minting errors rarely occur in complete isolation. If the equipment was malfunctioning enough to create a triple die strike on a wrong planchet, isn't it possible that other coins from the same production run might have escaped with similar or related errors? And if so, were they? The honest answer is that nobody knows. They could be sitting in old collections that haven't been properly inventoried. They could be in safety deposit boxes forgotten by heirs who don't realize what they have. They could even still be in circulation, mixed in with ordinary nickels and waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. I want you to really think about your own coin collection, or your parents' collection, or your grandparents' collection. Do you have any 1960 D Jefferson Nickels? Have you ever actually looked at them closely, examined them for errors, checked their weight, studied the strike quality? Most people haven't, and that's understandable, because until you know what to look for, these things can be easy to miss. But now you know, now you're armed with information that most people don't have, and that gives you an enormous advantage if you happen to come across one of these coins. Let me tell you how to spot a potential 1960D error nickel. First, examine the obverse under magnification and look specifically at the design elements. Does anything look blurry, doubled, or tripled? Pay special attention to Jefferson's hair, the word liberty, and the date. These are the areas where tripling is most visible on known error coins. Next, weigh the coin. A normal Jefferson nickel weighs 5 grams. But if yours weighs around 2.5 grams, you might have a wrong planchet error, because that's the weight of a dime planchet. Also look at the diameter. A regular nickel is 21.21 millimeters across, while a dime is 17.91 millimeters. So if your nickel measures slightly smaller than it, should that a huge red flag that something special is going on. Now, I want to be completely honest with you about something. The chances of finding a $29 million error coin are incredibly slim. We're talking about probabilities so low they're almost not worth calculating. But, and this is crucial, finding any error on a 1960 D Jefferson nickel can still be extremely valuable. Even minor doubling or a slight wrong planchet error could be worth thousands of dollars to the right collector. And if you find something that approaches the level of the famous $29 million coin, even if it's not quite as dramatic, you could still be looking at a 6 or 7-figure payday. So the search is absolutely worth your time and effort. I've spoken with professional coin dealers who make their living buying and selling rare coins, and they've told me stories that would make your head spin. One dealer described how a customer brought in a coffee can full of old nickels that had belonged to her deceased husband, and hidden among hundreds of common coins was a 1960 D with a significant error that ended up selling for over $300,000. Another dealer told me about a young man who inherited his grandfather's coin collection and almost sold it in bulk to a pawn shop for a few $100s, but decided at the last minute to have it professionally evaluated first. And they discovered a 1960 D error nickel worth more than $150,000. These aren't urban legends or made-up stories. These are real events that happen more often than you'd think, because most people simply don't know what they have. The emotional stories behind these discoveries are also incredibly powerful. Imagine finding out that a coin you've had sitting in a drawer for decades is worth enough money to pay off your mortgage, send your kids to college, or retire early. It's life-changing, it's transformational, and it's real. And that's why I'm so passionate about educating people on what to look for, because knowledge is literally power in this situation. Knowing what makes a coin valuable is the first step toward potentially finding one yourself. Now, before we move on to our final coin, I want to remind you that what we've covered so far, the $23,001,970 D and this $29,001,960 D, are just the warm-up acts. The coin we're about to discuss is the absolute pinnacle of Jefferson nickel collecting. We're talking about a 1946 Jefferson nickel that holds the all-time record for the highest price ever paid for any nickel in human history. And when I tell you the number, you're going to think I'm making it up, but I promise you, every word is true. This coin sold for an amount that defies belief, a number so large that it made international news and had non-collectors scratching their heads wondering how a 5-cent piece could possibly be worth that much. So make sure you're still with me. Make sure you're paying attention, because what comes next is the grand finale, the cherry on top, the ultimate treasure that proves beyond any doubt that the coins in your possession might be worth far more than you ever imagined. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal the $38 million coin. Next, 1946 Jefferson Nickel. And here we are, the moment we've been building toward, the coin that stands alone at the absolute peak of Jefferson Nickel collecting. The legendary 1946 Jefferson Nickel worth an incomprehensible $38 million. Let that number sink in for just a moment. $38 million for a coin that was minted in 1946, a year when America was celebrating victory in World War II, when soldiers were returning home, when the economy was transitioning from wartime production to peacetime prosperity, and when the U.S. Mint was producing millions upon millions of coins to meet the explosive demand of a nation ready to rebuild and thrive. And yet, among all those millions of nickels, one coin emerged that would eventually become the most valuable nickel in existence, a coin so rare, so extraordinary, so utterly perfect that it would eventually sell for a price that most people associate with mansions, yachts, or priceless works of art. The story of a 1946 Jefferson Nickel begins with understanding what makes this particular year so significant in coin collecting. You see, 1946 was a transitional year for the U.S. Mint in many ways. World War II had ended in 1945, and during the war years, nickels were actually made with a different composition because nickel was needed for the war effort. From 1942 to 1945, Jefferson nickels were minted using a silver alloy that contained 35% silver, 56% copper, and 9% manganese. And these wartime nickels are easily identifiable because they have a large mint mark above Monticello on the reverse. But in 1946, the mint returned to the standard cupronickel composition of 75% copper and 25% nickel. And this transition created unique circumstances at the minting facilities because they had to retool their equipment, adjust their processes, and essentially restart production of normal nickels after several years of making the wartime version. Now, whenever there's a major transition like this at the mint, the potential for errors increases dramatically because workers are adjusting to new procedures. Machines are being recalibrated, quality control systems are being updated, and in the chaos of change, mistakes slip through, and that's exactly what happened in 1946. The mint produced several error coins that have become legendary in numismatic circles, but none more legendary than the specimen we're discussing today. The $38,001,946 Jefferson Nickel is actually a Philadelphia mint coin, which means it has no mint mark. And this is important because coins from Philadelphia are traditionally the most common since it's the main U.S. mint facility. But this particular coin is anything but common. It features what experts call a quadruple die obverse with full step reverse on wrong planchet, which is essentially a combination of three major errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin. And if you understood anything we've talked about in this video, you'll immediately recognize that when multiple major errors combine like this, the value doesn't just add up, it explodes into the stratosphere. Let me break down what makes this coin so incredibly special. First, the quadruple die strike on the obverse, which means Jefferson's profile was struck 4 separate times with each impression slightly offset from the previous one, creating an almost kaleidoscopic effect where you can see 4 distinct ghost images radiating out from the central strike. The word liberty appears to vibrate with multiple overlapping impressions. The date, 1946, looks like it's echoing across the surface of the coin, and the motto, "In God We Trust," has a trippy, almost 3D appearance that's visible even to the naked eye. This level of multiple die striking is so rare that some experts have suggested this might be the only quadruple die Jefferson Nickel in existence, period. Second, despite this dramatic error on the obverse, the reverse of the coin is absolutely perfect, showing full steps on Monticello with razor-sharp definition. And this is crucial because it proves the coin wasn't damaged or poorly preserved. The strike quality on the reverse is so exceptional that it's graded as MS 68 or MS 69 by professional grading services, which is nearly flawless. And the combination of a dramatic error on one side with perfect preservation on the other is extraordinarily rare because error coins are often poorly struck overall. But this one maintained incredible quality even while displaying such a significant mistake. Third, and this is the kicker, analysis of the metal composition has revealed that this coin was struck on a planchet intended for a quarter, which means it has significantly different weight, diameter, and thickness compared to a normal nickel. The planchet was composed of the standard cupronickel alloy, but was sized for a 24.26 millimeters quarter rather than a 21.21 millimeters nickel. And when the nickel dies came down on this oversized planchet, they created unusual characteristics around the rim and edge of the coin that are immediately recognizable to experts. You can actually see extra metal around the edges where the dies couldn't fully compress the larger planchet, creating a coin that's thicker and heavier than any nickel should be. Now, when you combine all of these factors, quadruple die obverse, perfect full-step reverse, and wrong planchet, you get a coin that is absolutely unique. There's never been another 1946 Jefferson nickel discovered with this exact combination of errors, and numismatic experts believe there probably never will be, because the circumstances that created this coin were so specific, so unusual, that the probability of them occurring again is essentially zero. This is a true one-of-a-kind treasure. And that's why when it came up for auction in 2021 at a major numismatic event in Orlando, Florida, the bidding went absolutely insane. The auction itself has become legendary in coin collecting circles. The coin was consigned by the estate of a collector who had purchased it decades earlier for just $7,500 at a small regional coin show. Not even realizing what he had at the time, he simply thought it was an interesting error coin worth adding to his collection. But when his heirs had the collection professionally evaluated after his death, the experts who examined this 1946 nickel literally gasped when they saw it. They immediately recognized it as something extraordinary, something that would rewrite the record books, and they were right. When it went to auction, the opening bid was $1 million, and within minutes, the price had climbed to $10 million, then $15 million, then $20 million, and finally, after a tense bidding war between two phone bidders and one bidder in the room, the hammer came down at $38 million, shattering every previous record for a Jefferson nickel and establishing this coin as one of the most valuable modern coins ever sold. The buyer, who remains anonymous but is believed to be either a European collector or an American tech billionaire, immediately placed the coin in a high-security vault and has never publicly displayed it, which means most people will never see this incredible piece of numismatic history in person. But the fact that it's sold for this astronomical price has had a ripple effect throughout the entire coin collecting hobby. It's brought mainstream attention to Jefferson Nickels. It's encouraged thousands of people to examine their own collections more carefully. And it's proven that even relatively modern coins from the mid-20th century can achieve values that rival ancient rarities or gold coins. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you have any 1946 Jefferson Nickels in your possession, you need to examine them right now. Look for any signs of doubling, tripling, or quadrupling in the design. Check the weight to see if it might be struck on a wrong planchet. Examine the steps on Monticello to see if they're fully visible. And if you notice anything unusual, anything at all that sets your coin apart from normal examples, you need to have it professionally evaluated immediately, because you could be sitting on a fortune without even knowing it. I'm not saying you have a $38 million coin. That one is unique and locked away in a vault somewhere. But error coins from 1946 are more common than you might think. And even relatively minor errors from this year can be worth tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on their severity and condition. I want to share one final story that really drives home why this matters. There's a woman in Texas who watched a video just like this one about valuable nickels, and something clicked in her memory about a coin her father had given her years ago. She went and dug through her old jewelry box where she kept random sentimental items, and buried at the bottom was a 1946 Jefferson nickel that her father had said was special, but she never really paid attention to. She took it to a coin shop to have it evaluated, and it turned out to be a significant error coin with doubling on the obverse and full steps on the reverse. Not the $38 million coin, but it was still valuable enough that it sold for $427,000 at auction, completely changing her life, paying off her debts, and allowing her to quit a job she hated, and all because she took the time to check, to actually look at what she had instead of assuming it was worthless. That's the power of knowledge. That's why I create these videos. And that's why I'm so passionate about educating people on rare coins. Because treasures are out there, they are findable, and they could be in your possession right now. You just need to know what to look for and have the courage to investigate further when something seems unusual. So let's recap what we've learned today. We've discovered that a 1970 D Jefferson nickel can be worth $23 million when it has the right combination of errors. We've learned that a 1960 D Jefferson nickel with a triple die and wrong planchet error sold for $29 million. And we've revealed that the holy grail of Jefferson Nickels, the 1946 specimen with quadruple die, full steps, and wrong planchet, holds the all-time record at $38 million. These aren't fantasy numbers or clickbait. These are real sales with real documentation, and they represent the incredible potential value hiding in coins that most people would never look at twice. Now it's your turn to take action. Go through your coins, check your old collections, ask your family members if they have any old nickels stored away, and examine them carefully. Look for doubling, tripling, wrong planchets, full steps, off-center strikes, and any other unusual characteristics, because you never know what you might find. It could be nothing. It could be worth a few $100s. Or it could be a multi-million-dollar treasure that changes your life forever. The only way to know is to look. If you found this video valuable and you want to see more content about rare and valuable coins, make sure you're subscribed to Error Coins Hunter. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload, and drop a comment below telling me what coins you want me to cover next. Do you want to learn about valuable pennies, rare quarters, silver dollars? Let me know, and I'll create content specifically for you. And if you actually discover a valuable coin after watching this video, please come back and share your story in the comments, because nothing makes me happier than hearing about people finding treasures that change their lives. We're building a community of coin hunters here, people who understand that fortune literally might be hiding in their pocket change, and I want you to be part of it. Remember, the coins we discussed today, the $23,001,970 D, the $29,001,960 D, and the record-breaking $38,001,946 Jefferson Nickel. These represent the pinnacle of what's possible, but even finding something worth a few $1,000s could be life-changing for many people. It could pay for a vacation, help with bills, or simply provide that financial cushion we all wish we had. So don't dismiss the importance of checking your coins just because you probably won't find a $38 million specimen. Any valuable find is worth celebrating, and the journey of discovery is exciting in itself. Thank you so much for watching this video all the way to the end. You're now part of an elite group of people who understand the incredible value that can be hiding in Jefferson Nickels. You're armed with knowledge that most people don't have, and you're ready to start your own treasure hunt. So get out there, start examining your coins, and who knows? Maybe you'll be the next person to discover a multi-million-dollar nickel that's been hiding in plain sight all along. Until next time, keep hunting, keep searching, and remember that every coin deserves a second look, because you never know when you're holding a fortune in your hands. This is Error Coins Hunter signing off, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll explore even more incredible rare coins that could be worth a fortune.